Hello and welcome to the Roundtable. Today on the Roundtable we are discussing the ministerial inauguration and Wike's demolition threat. Also, we have the palliative distribution across states as well as the building collapse earlier today in Abuja. My name is Melanie Ishola, and joining me this afternoon are two distinguished journalists, Amit Fateh and Obafemi Obadare, who is a senior member of Punch editorial team. Good afternoon, gentlemen, and thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
Yes, I think it brings so much delight to be welcoming Mr. Obadare into the Roundtable family.
Yeah,
Amit,
actually.
what would you have to say to him?
Yeah, welcome to the family.
You're welcome.
Love to continue to see your face here.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you. So going very quickly into this afternoon, let's pick up from the very first story, which is on the ministerial inauguration, which happened on Monday. The inauguration of 45 ministers designate into the Federal Executive Council is currently underway or held, I beg your pardon, at the conference center of the State House, Abuja, on Monday. The swearing-in ceremony came less than a week after President Bola Tinubu released the portfolios for the ministerial nominees, which had former Rivers State Governor Nyesom Wike as the Minister of Federal Capital Territory and Festus Keyamo as Minister of Aviation. Now, the swearing-in ceremony has been critiqued for being elaborate, while I also notably would remember the genuflections of the Minister of Tourism, Lolade John, and the Minister of Steel Development, Shuaibu A. Audu. I just thought that I had to put that out there. My very first concern, however, would be, why does it seem to take long to have ministerial appointments, especially for a president who said he's been preparing to be president for decades? And I think I'll take this conversation to the new member of the team, the person of Mr. Obadare. Can you weigh in on how you see the ministerial list and inauguration of the President Bola Tinubu coming almost 3 months after he was sworn in as president?
Thank you. Honestly, I think it's an anticlimax. A bit disappointing. You have to go back into history to see that the president was a bit tardy. You remember, the election was on February 25, yes, and it was declared by INEC on March 1. So between March 1 and May 29, he actually had 3 months. If you want to hit the ground running, 3 months is enough for you to look for the best across Nigeria, across 36 states. 3 months is enough. Not only did he not do anything substantial in those 3 months, he waited 2 months again before sending 28 names just to beat the constitutional deadline. So I think it's not tidy enough.
Thank you.
For somebody who said, I will hit the ground running.
Thank you. So this has been a notable line of the President Bola Tinubu. I will hit. In fact, it's beyond I will hit the ground running. We eventually seem to agree now that he hits the ground running. If you would remember the things he did upon resumption, notable of amongst which is the subsidy removal, yeah. And Nigerians are even yet to really get over the impact of that. So Amit, he did say that he had 3 months before he was even sworn in as president, and now it's almost already another 3 months after being sworn in as president, and we still seem to be here grappling with the basics. When are we going to understand for certain what the direction of this administration would be in the next 3 and how many more months? Do we have 3 years and how many more months?
Yeah, well, personally, I feel that the president, I would say, took his time, because obviously you have to understand the circumstances
contribute to the reasons why politicians rather make decisions on certain things. And of course, it's our president, and we should be bothered about governance at the moment and not politics any longer. But the way Nigeria is, you can't remove governance from politics, and you can't remove politics from governance, right? So when he became the president of the country, there are certain circumstances that brought him into power. Obviously, you have to look at a factor. A weaker factor is there. Someone from an opposition party helping his ambition to become president. Look at the El-Rufai issue. Someone who was with him all day, and now El-Rufai can no longer become or would no longer be a minister. I mean, he said. He's stepping down.
Doesn't mean that
of
he
course
was told to come back. It still has to be cleared by the Senate.
Well, of course, but then he said he's done with it. That was what
he was going to study.
Yeah, I mean, studying doesn't mean that
you can't still serve the nation.
Well, okay, exactly. But then we have to look at all these factors put together before because if we still have issues like this, I mean, it was El-Rufai and a couple of others, I think 2 others that was not approved by the Senate at the time.
Yes.
So these are issues. Probably the president was taking his time to ensure that the people that is going to push forward are people who are going to really serve us. But of course, you have to realize that the few, probably, that I would refer to as technocrats in the list that was released by the president or that have been sworn in already as president, probably he has all of them already. But the political factor there are the ones that delayed him and didn't give us, made him give us the ministerial list in time.
Okay, thank you so much, Amit. And I think I love the angle you came from. It's helping me expand this conversation because indeed we would now agree that it looks like even the constitution of the names themselves had a whole lot more political, maybe insinuations or interests or undertone or nuances than maybe would be expected. And as you clearly gave the analysis of, hey, let's not forget how President Bola Tinubu became the president in a very tightly and closely contested election. I mean, we've seen an election that has how many tribunal petitions and cases and whatnot going on at the moment. So we do understand that it's actually a changing terrain for politics, but should that also not mean a changing terrain with regards to the quality of our governance and politics and polity? I'm coming to you, Mr. Obadare, and my question seems to be, so when you look at the Constitution, it seems like I'm taking us back a bit, but I would. I mean, in the end, we had a long time to deliberate on how the Constitution of the names, whether they truly even represent the federal character, and whether or not we should still be having the Minister of States and all of that. Not forgetting that Festus Keyamo, after serving as Minister of State, came up and said, this is unconstitutional and we shouldn't have it. We have on the list of the 45 ministers now that we have, 5 people from the southeast, 3 people from a state like Ogun, for example. And this has raised, a lot of agitations from different, sectors. You see the Niger Delta people the other time saying, oh, we want more, we demand this and all of that. I just need you to help me make sense of all of this, Mr. Badari, around. So exactly what really is your position on the constitution of the 45 names?
Thank you, Melanie. See, the constitution of that cabinet says a lot about politics in Nigeria. Politicians speak with both sides of the mouth. In a normal climb, you will not expect a Keyamo who lampooned Buhari for using Minister of State to come into the same, another government of the same party that has ministers of state. No criticism. Why did you criticize Buhari?
What really are you standing for?
Also, what's your position? What did you want to gain? I mean, if you wanted good governance, then you should recuse yourself from becoming a minister. Or you are just complaining because you were Minister of State of Labor for Labor that time. So politicians in Nigeria, most of the time they are not to be taken seriously when they speak. They are just looking for better positions and how to feather their own nest.
Exactly.
But the constitution of the cabinet is a bit surprising. In a country that whose GDP is about $437 billion. You have 45, you nominated 48. At the end of the day, you have ended up with 45 cabinets with all the big government that entails. Your debt is about 49.25 trillion naira. Ways and means is also there that you are not tackled. Pensions you are not paying. You have removed petrol subsidies. People cannot go about their business again. The U.S. with a GDP of 21 trillion or $22 trillion has 16 cabinet members. And your economy is wobbly. You have 48, you nominated 48 and ended up with 45. So some things do not. Meanwhile, among those cabinet members, look at Wike. Wike was minister under Jonathan. He was governor for 8 years. After then, you made him a minister. What are you suggesting? What are you saying? There are no other Nigerians. We are 260 million people. So you cannot find another thing. But another person to be ministers. Look at El Rufai. El Rufai was minister of FCT under Obasanjo. He was governor for 8 years in Kaduna. You are bringing him back 20 years after he had been minister. That does not suggest rigor.
Yes, it would look like an opposition.
He's just playing, he's just repaying his political IOU.
Yes.
Simple.
Thank you so much, Mr. Badari. And it would look like an opposition position to actually come off the back of what you said if I continued by saying, at the end of the day, this wasn't actually serving the nation. It was just serving your people, the elite community, and the interests of politics. Again, maybe the politics of perpetuation of power. Seeing as 2023, 2027 would come, and another 2020 whatever would come, and then there will be more and more elections. And knowing Tinubu, you understand it's beyond him. He would like to build, if possible, an empire of political, students, right, who can graduate and continue to run things after him. So much to still say regarding the ministerial inauguration. Now, we still seem to have a big government with 45 ministers, clearly, and if you put this side by side, the nation's development, Mr. Badari has tried to establish this. It doesn't seem to add up. And my question would then be, is the government actually aware of the pain of the people? Because I believe that, initially we came off we're doing subsidy of 8,000 for the really poor people. They said there was a register of the, what's this register called? NDSS, or what's this register? And then we said, this register's constitution is faulty. We're going to put aside the register, and we're simply just going to rethink and review the entire palliative on subsidy. But then I ask myself, since the subsidy has now gone from state to state, there's been the sharing. Does it seem like the government quite understands the pain of the people? Would you say, and I'll take that from Hamid first, would you say that you see the presidency of Bola Tinubu as having understood and having appreciation for the pains of the people?
To be clear, I'd like to say that over time and time again, we've continued to have a set of politicians who are the same as far as their thinking faculty is concerned. I do not think we have government or politicians or leaders who have the interest of the people at heart. To be clear, when COVID happened, palliatives were shared across states the same way we have palliatives shared across states today. However, 2-3 years later, just last year and early this year, there were still some palliatives of COVID-19 that was still seen in warehouses across the country, not even one. Now, I think this issue would now I will still come back to blame the federal government here. Right. But we will still have to go back to our people first to be able to address this issue critically. Now, the federal government has released palliatives to people that, okay, give this thing to my people and let them ensure that they feel less of the suffering that we have caused them due to the policies that we've made. Now, there is someone between the federal government and the people, which is the state. Right. Now, between the state and the people, there is still someone who would still be probably local government chairmen, probably councillors, probably whatnot, that would be the one to directly disburse these palliatives down to the people. Now, the problem is that between the federal government and the people, we have about 2-3 parties who are involved to ensure that it gets to the final recipient of these palliatives. However, there is always a misappropriation in between that class of people, and you will not be able to get the palliatives down to those who really need it. Now, it begs a question that definitely it is we Nigerians that are our home miseries. Because
if you say Nigerians now, we all do not have the same level and caliber. There seem to be some Nigerians who are more Nigerians.
Of course, who are more Nigerians than other Nigerians. That's fine. I mean, but then the fact is that the people who are still, they are still Nigerians.
That's right.
And they are the ones that are to ensure that these things get down to the masses who are really feeling the heat of everything. I said something a while ago while we were in Roundtable that instead of the federal government saying that, okay, they want to dish out bags of rice.
That's right.
And all of that. I mean, that is something that we have tried before and it has failed.
During the
COVID, it failed woefully. Now, what I expect of a government that believes that he has prepared for several years to lead this nation was at first, before even declaring the subsidy removal, meet with manufacturing companies, companies that are providing things that people directly need.
Or even farmers.
Come here, Nesto.
Right.
You guys sell milk, sell Bonvita and all of those things down to my people. Let me pay you this amount of money. If you are selling your product for, let's say, for example, 1,300.
The living of Nigerians.
Exactly.
I'm going to take this away from you.
So that's the way it should be. Not that you should. It's absurd.
You just advertised for a brand right there, so I'm hoping my guy is here. So they're just going to. All right. So I mean, Mr. Wadare, amid this, and quite honestly, I would also be dispassionate, especially when we have to now come to the heart of the matter, which is that, hey, people are in pain. We cannot close our eyes. You and I move about with common people, because of course we are common people. I just said that there are some Nigerians who are more Nigerians than others, and we've tried to establish that as well. But if you look at all of these things that he has said, do you agree that the best way to address this palliative is what's been done? Because I, for one, would like to know if we couldn't have done a more sustainable thing to ensure that the pain and the hardship is better alleviated.
Let me pick you on the last statement. You see, this whole concept of palliative in Nigeria is wrongly handled.
Terribly handled.
There is really nothing like palliative. What do you mean when you say palliative? How do you provide palliative for the MBS last year said 133 million Nigerians are multidimensionally poor. After the removal of petrol subsidy, the World Bank said 7.1 million more Nigerians this year will fall into extreme poverty. That's 140 million persons.
In total, out of about 2
million. In extreme poverty. Now you say you want to do palliative of 150,000 bags of rice. Come on. Does this add up? 150,000 bags of rice for 133 million persons. So the government has got the whole concept wrong. There are better ways to undo this so-called palliative. You have 500 billion naira. Okay, why not go it has been done before.
Yes.
Go to the poultry farmers.
Exactly.
Go to the SMEs. Go to manufacturers.
It's as simple as that.
So that they can produce. Keep people in jobs.
Yes.
Exactly.
When you keep people in jobs, you get money because they pay taxes.
You
get VAT.
Unemployment is equally another big issue.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You get VAT. So you have some of your money back. It's not when you give cash, you are actually enabling
corruption.
Okay,
that's it. You're enabling corruption. The federal is enabling corruption.
So there was a way we talked about the ministerial inauguration and the entire constitution, and then we ended up with palliative. I wasn't supposed to actually have the palliative conversation yet, but I see how these things tie together and add up, especially when we're speaking to an overly bogus constitution of the ministerial ship, pardon the use of that word, at a time like this in Nigeria, when as a matter of fact, there are deeper issues that concern humans that we have. Now, let's quickly speak to the demolition threats of the Minister of the FCT, in Nyesom Wike, who also stirred the hornet's nest when he vowed to demolish houses illegally constructed in the nation's capital during a press briefing at his new office in Abuja on Monday. And it seems to me that we seem to be having this sort of stance and posture from the newly constituted and inaugurated and sworn in ministers, and it sort of feels like we are normalizing threats. I didn't think that from Monday until today, it's been barely 48 hours or what, we've had this threat issued, that threat issued. John Eno yesterday visited the National Stadium and says, oh, there's need for renovation, and we're asking, oh, did we not just actually commission this airport, what is it airport? The stadium? The stadium last year.
That was in 2003.
No, there was a renovation done recently, and I guess that was last year. And so you look at all of these issues, and then you're asking yourself, oh, did Wike get it right? Did Wike get it right, I mean.
I strongly support
Wike,
the FCT minister on his decision to ensure that houses who are illegally constructed are demolished. Now, if we had to look at some of the stances he made during that press briefing, he was talking about green areas. We are in an era where we are strongly fighting against the demolition of our climate. We are in an era whereby journalists out there do several reports, several investigations
on climate change.
On climate change, trying to ensure that we have a more greener society. And right there, areas that the government has rightly put out there, okay, these areas are meant to be green areas whereby we have plants and all of that to be. Then some people illegally they went backyards to get those lands and build properties on them. Yes, those sort of houses should be demolished.
But do you think we trust the government? Are people not thinking so the government wants this choice locations just so when they retrieve it and eventually they're able to recommission it? I think somewhere here.
Melanie, personally, right, I do not see Wike as someone who is going to be like what you just described now.
Right, okay.
I see a more of an El-Rufai as an FCT minister at this time, a proactive FCT minister. I mean, if you look at what Abuja is today, we can say largely the person that contributed the most
to the development.
In fact, I said it. I think I tweeted it, or I was having a conversation with a friend. I said the last 2 FCT ministers we've had, I haven't seen any at all. I mean, I frequent Abuja a lot, and I've not seen any development at all in the last.
That you think can match what
El-Rufai did as FCT minister.
You just said tweeted, and you're as guilty as I am guilty because I've yet to forget that we are now no longer tweeting, we are Xing.
We are Xing. So now that's an issue. It's a problem because in the past we've had ministers who have been less proactive. They've been full of laxity throughout their tenures, and now we are having someone who is proactive, and people are saying, "Oh, this man is going in a wrong direction."
Okay, thank you so much.
No, it's not going in a wrong direction.
I see how you hold brief for him. I'm not giving a position here. On this topic, I'm just going to ask questions, and I'm coming to you with that while we move quickly. So he did say that for illegal buildings that didn't have approval, and then in fact the whole concept of illegality, of course, gets you to ask in the first place. So how come these constructions took place? Some people have probably lived there for decades. Was there no, what's it called? What would you give approval in the first place? Or were these approvals actually entrenched in corruption? Or what exactly played out here?
Nigeria is a country where impunity thrives. And as long as you treat the symptoms What El-Rufai did was to treat the symptoms. And that's what Wike wants to replicate.
Okay.
That's not going to solve the problem. What will solve the problem is to be strategic, to be systematic about what you are going to do. For example, who gave the approval to
build these houses?
To build in these places? Have they been punished?
Okay.
Have they been probed? How much did they make from those illegal approvals? According to the Nigerian Constitution, it's only a governor who has the right to give C of O, to grant C of O. So if there is in a state in Nigeria, if that happens, it's the governor that you hold responsible. Who granted the approval? Where is the FC, Federal Capital Development Authority? What's his job? FCDA. What is he doing? When they were building, was there no minister? Was there no president in place? So there is too much laxity. People take advantage and build anywhere. They will just grease the palm of some people in the ministry and they will build. You can be sure that most of these structures don't even have approvals. They just get land. Maybe some land speculators will just sell land, and at the end of the day, so that is the impunity.
Right.
You don't treat the symptom by demolition. Some people have to be punished and brought to book.
Exactly. That's just about the right way to get us thinking and moving in the right direction. We'll move quickly to our very next story, and that's on palliative distribution across states of the country. Now, the Punch newspaper reported that confusion is trailing the federal government's palliatives package to the 36 states of the Federation and the Federal Capital Territory, stemming from distribution hitches, alleged underhand dealings, and inadequacy of the materials to meet the needs of Nigerians. While some of the states have taken custody of the funds and food items earmarked for distribution to residents as palliatives, others have yet to receive such amid agitation by the citizens. And I mean, you continue to look at why this is. There is a lot of ways to look at this, but I'd like to quickly talk to some states that have fared well, maybe not well, but that have commenced distribution, and that's Lagos, Borno, Ondo, amongst a few other states. Now, at the risk of asking if the palliative idea is really able to stem the hunger and anger of the masses, I'd like to ask how you think the states that have started are doing so far. Amit, it's your call again.
Let us look at Kwara State. So I was privileged to watch a video a couple of days back where they were actually distributing some of these palliatives in some local communities. I mean, real local communities in Kwara State, where you see extremely aged women who are there and they were collecting it. I mean, that was impressive to me because over time, we've always had those things. You just hear them and they don't really get to where they are meant to go to. So there was this old man who I suppose probably is the head of that village who received the package from
maybe
the state.
The
ballets, exactly. So that he was addressing them, okay, we've gotten this particular thing and this is how we are going to distribute it. So far, I would say that, oh, that's impressive. Look at what happened in Lagos State. Shomolu was filled to the brim when they were distributing these packages. Then this brings some certain questions that, okay, if some states have started distribution of these palliatives, of course, there's always going to be some mismanagement across the line. But then, the states that are not distributing yet, why haven't they started distribution of these palliatives to start with? Then two, even states that are distributing themselves already, what are the laid out plans to ensure that these palliatives get to? I think the major issue that we have here is supervision, personally. I feel that the federal government that is releasing palliatives themselves should have probably committee or agency.
Are we not tired of committees?
I mean,
I think I am tired of
I mean, we're tired of it, but we will still continue to have it, because of course we faltered the
For
entire.
the purpose of accountability and transparency,
Yeah.
I see the point you're making.
We've faltered the fact that the palliative system is not
right in the first place.
I mean, but then what we have at the moment should be
monitored
properly.
Yes.
What we have people who ensures that, okay, these things are getting to people. Very just wasting money. So when we have them, they will be able to tell the state that, okay, we've been able to do this, we'll be able to do that. Then when we have cases whereby we are not getting reports that this palliative really gets to where it should get to, then there is someone to be punished.
Okay, thank you. So for the purpose of holding somebody accountable, I see why you have asked for committees. But honestly, we've had lots of committees with lots of white papers and whatnot. I mean, I still remember the Oronsai report today, and I'm like, what's going on, Nigeria? Anyways, Mr. Wadare, and I simply quickly want to make a wrap on the conversation around palliative. And sincerely, the reason we're talking palliative in the first place was because subsidy was removed. We looked at a week or two ago when the NNPC went out a $3 billion loan from the Afrexim or what's that?
Afrexim.
Right. And then a host of other things that we think may still be in the pipeline. For example, for me, that loan signaled to me that, I do not think that subsidy is truly gone, because then what would be the purpose of such a loan? But I'm not bringing attention to that. That's just to get me to where I'm going. I just want to ask, really, are we off a subsidy regime?
Wow.
With all true intentions of the government? How do you see it?
It's a difficult question. The government is not transparent. The NNPC is not transparent. So all we can do is make informed guesses, conjectures. But my reading of the situation is that subsidy is back, one form or the other. If you are truly using the regulated price, and with the depreciation of the naira to the international currencies, then you find out that maybe petrol will be selling above what it is selling currently.
Absolutely.
So who is paying the differential? There is a gap now. There is a gap. So who is paying? And the president said categorically, petrol prices will not be more than they are currently. If it's a truly deregulated market, nobody will fix the price of petrol. Nobody is fixing the price of diesel.
That's right.
You can remember about 2 years ago or last year when the price of gas shot up. The government stepped in first by removing VAT, and there was a form of subsidy. So you cannot say totally that subsidy is gone, because the prices are too prohibitive for Nigerians earn very poor wages. Very poor. How much is $30,000 minimum wage? 30,000. Oh, sorry.
Nigerians earn $30,000.
How much is
you and I would not look like that.
How much is 30,000 naira minimum wage in dollars today?
Right.
It's about $25 a
right.
month.
That's correct.
A month. An analysis of 10 countries in Africa where you have minimum wages. Egypt was at number 10, $178 a month.
As minimum wage.
That's the minimum wage in Egypt.
Well, I mean, thank you so much, Mr. Wadare. I don't want to get thinking in that direction. And it means that I'll be hoping and wishing, and they say wishes are not horses. So this leads us to our very last story today, and we are speaking to the building collapse yesterday in Abuja, and it's quite interesting to see that such things have actually taken common place in the nation over the past couple of months. A multi-story building collapsed at Lagos Street in Garki, Abuja, reportedly killing 2 people while many others are being trapped. That was the report on Wednesday. However, eyewitnesses have come to say, okay, there are 2 who are critically injured, but okay, no one is dead from the scene of the incident, but of course 35 people have been rescued. Now we have the Director General of Federal Emergency Management Authority, FEMA, Dr. Abbas Idris, who in a quick response or a release this morning said that 37 were rescued and 2, of course, have been taken. All of them have been taken to various medical facilities in Abuja, and the rescue efforts were actually still ongoing in collaboration with other rescue agencies. And while he was also speaking today on Arise TV, Dr. Abbas said that the operation has now been called off, having reached ground zero. So I just want us to recall that earlier this year, the Director General of the Standards Organization of Nigeria, Farouk Salim, said that Nigeria has the highest number of building collapses in Africa, and called for a radical response from the federal government and the state governments. The Punch reported that the Building Collapse Prevention Guild recorded at least 62 catastrophes in 2022, causing 84 deaths and injuring 113 persons. Lagos had 20 cases, Kano and Anambra recorded 5 building accidents each, and Delta and Jigawa states 4 each. These are really big numbers if the value of one life means anything to us at all. Of course, my first question would be, who is to blame? And I'm coming to you, Amid. The other time when we diverted into this sort of issue where we're talking about Wike's stance on demolition of illegal buildings in Abuja, it was still a case of who's going to pay, who are we going to hold culpable for these things. So who do you think is to blame for such incident as happened yesterday?
Thank you so much, Melanie. Again, we are in a society that is lawless, a society that is filled with anyhowness. That is the society that we are in. I did an investigation sometime around May last year when a building collapsed on Ibadan Street in Ebute Metta, and it led to the loss of millions of naira in goods of traders, deaths, and a lot of injured persons. Now, when we got to the base of that issue, we realized that the same building has been issued an eviction notice because of the state of the building. However, somehow, the owners of the building has been able to secure stay in the building because they've been able to settle some certain persons in certain agencies, and they remain there. It's a problem in the country, and that is the same way you have under Ebute Metta, a lot of houses. Nema told us that they've issued them eviction notices
just for the purpose of demolition of the buildings.
But these people have decided to remain in those buildings. Now, this is it. Personally, I feel that the government should list out. These things should now become a matter of emergency, because when it happens and building collapses, it becomes an emergency.
That's right.
When you issue an eviction notice for a building, let those houses be evicted in a week, 2 weeks at most. When we have issues when you give eviction notice to houses, yes, we understand the fact that people are living there, their properties are there, their lives are there, they needed shelter,
emotional attachments to buildings in this part of the world.
While we understand that, we have to still go back to the fact that when it happens, it becomes a problem of the government, it becomes a general problem.
Trust me, I remember, and I love that you went to Ebute Metta. And if you recall as well, I think some 2 years ago at Lagos Island, you know, of course, Lagos Island, a portion of Lagos Island, you would say, is sort of home to native Lagosians, some native Lagosians.
Of course.
And all of that. And when you go to those places, it's at best what I would describe as like going to my village, right? And you see the setting, it's Agbole-ish. That's not English, but it's just to say downtown-ish construction and arrangement of, you know, settlement, right? And then I looked at the building, this particular collapse, if you remember, Mr. Badar, where we then had a school running in a building that had lots of pupils on this fated morning. 4 victims, and there was a mother who lost children in the same incident. And
Yeah.
as you said, that when these things happen, they become emergencies. It's not only the headache of the victims,
Of the
but
victims.
headaches of all of us.
All of us.
It's a collective
I
problem.
mean, when Ebuti Meta happened, I could remember my editor called me, and I just had to run from the
Wherever
office
you
here
were,
down
just
to
to get
Ebuti
down
Meta
there.
to cover the report. That's a problem for me
It
because,
was.
of course, I had to go there because something has happened. People have died.
It was.
So,
I remember my colleague who had to cover a building that was still under construction at Ikoyi. And this, I'm saying, so to say, it's not just a problem for buildings that have existed and have, stayed their course, if you would, but also for buildings who are just being constructed
and
it's
improperly
not the first
constructed.
time, the one at Ikoyi, that you would hear that a building under construction, I mean, just this year at Banana Island, another occurred. And then you're asking yourself, what's going on? So costs of building materials rise and all of this, and we are not speaking to what we should speak to. The new Minister of State for Housing, or the Minister for Housing, has said, oh, we're going to have the housing deficit sorted in a short while and all of that. I'm asking myself, how are you really going to do that? People have not eaten. People
That
cannot
must be a
feed.
joke.
Right. So I just want you to speak to this, very briefly as we make a wrap on the conversation. The whole conversation.
It's a lot of problem in Nigeria, this building collapse. There is a study that shows that between 1974 and 2021, there were 1,090 deaths in Nigeria. The Brookings Institution said 6,000 households were displaced in Lagos alone during this period. During this, to January 74 to January 2023, Nigeria lost an estimated $3.2 trillion to building collapse.
That's in a period of 40 years.
So you can see that we are not systematic, we are not strategic. We are too distracted about what we want to do about Nigeria. Nigeria, what you read as the intro shows that Nigeria has the highest number of buildings that collapse in Africa. So that tells you straight away that this thing is entrenched, is ingrained in Nigeria. The building that fell yesterday in Abuja was during a downpour.
That's right.
And there have been many cases like that rains threaten buildings in Nigeria. And what's the cause? Engineers will tell you that it's because the structures are weak. If you want to build in Nigeria, believe me, there are rules. But it's because those rules are not followed. If you want to build a one-story building in Nigeria, the state government has to approve. You have to do a structural design that has to be approved. You have to do soil test.
Yeah,
you have to do many things.
Things.
All those things, one way or the other, we bypass them. The building that collapsed in Boyi that you were talking about, the Lagos state government put a notice on it that it should not continue. One way or the other, the building was even raised beyond the level approval for.
Oh my goodness, don't remind me.
So those are in Nigeria,
it's terrible.
It's just a joke, a jungle where you do what you like. And the consequence is death, injuries, destruction,
and what have you. Thank you so much, Mr. Albadari. So as we make a wrap on this conversation, I know that my colleague is quite, is quite passionate about this whole building collapse thing. But I know that you equally would have made more findings on the field, when you especially visited to report on such cases. So the issue of integrity testing, if you would, is almost always big all of a sudden when such incident as happened yesterday in Abuja comes up. And then I'm asking myself, so when they make so much noise about, there's going to be integrity testing this year, and eventually it goes off, everything dies down. A lifespan of news in Nigeria, in my opinion, is just about between 5 days to 14 days, and then we all forget about it. And then another incident occurs, and then we are remembering, the Ikoyis and all of these other things. What do you know exactly of integrity testing, and how does it go at the end of the day that we then do not have such houses demolished, sealed, an eviction take place?
Thank you so much, Melanie. When we're talking about integrity testing, trying to know, okay, if this our building is still fit enough for people
exactly.
to be residential and used to do businesses and whatnot. These things happen, really. Agencies that are in charge of building, they go there. If you go to Ebute Metta, because I did visit a lot of areas, a lot of houses on Ebute Metta at the time that incident happened. A lot of houses has been given these notices. They've passed through integrity testing, and the government agencies that are in charge have said that these houses are not fit to accommodate people again.
So integrity testing actually is trustworthy.
Yes,
we can trust it.
We can trust
the problem now
is the implementation of the result.
The problem is whether or not
the result.
Exactly, implementation of the result is the problem.
Okay. So, gentlemen, it's been an amazing show. If you would agree with me, and this is where we're going to have to draw the curtain, but not until you've had a last word on the program. For all that we've said, I'd like to give you the opportunity to just, give us your wrap-up thoughts on the program today.
The Tinubu government has to do better. It's facing a lot of distraction. The president, I'm saying, is facing too much distraction, maybe politics. The government has to buckle down and work. There is a lot of work in Nigeria to be done. So the time for politics is over.
Thank you.
We should start governing.
Thank you. Politics over, start governing. So, Hamid, it's your chance. Give me your wrap-up thought.
Fellow Nigerians, I believe that when the government is working, or when government agencies are working, it is also our duty to ensure that we contribute to the development of our society. It is important and pertinent that we do everything it takes to ensure that we lead better lives ourselves. So please, Nigerians, fellow Nigerians, let us ensure that when we see ills in the society, when we see issues that could become retrogressive to society, let us call it out. Let us point the attention of the needed agencies, needed probably press organizations. If government agencies are not paying attention to them, let us do that. When we do these things and we come together to, it fosters national development, and we're going together move this country even further. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much, Hamid. And I'm going to borrow your word, just like the word of any president of Nigeria, pastor present, fellow Nigerians. And a citizen of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, I am expecting my palliative.